All right, so I kind of noticed this, like I kind of after the lockdowns in, 2020, kind of going up into 2022. Now, at first I thought it was just kind of, me and just a handful of other people. We just kind of lucked out with, good timing. We had made some good, progress, some good gains prior to, 2020, COVID, all that stuff, the lockdowns. And we just kind of just good timing, good luck, just kind of cashed out at the right moment, really kind of hitting our prime phases. And I mean, that was definitely my experience. I'm not going to say that wasn't the case, because I mean, I was doing pretty good prior to it. I was doing pretty good in like 2019, definitely making a lot of progress, financial progress, progress with just personal development, my physique, my overall health, my just went well-being in general. Definitely making a lot of progress, a lot of gains. Really, really just looking back, I'm like, dang, dude, I was doing really good at the time. However, after it wasn't until afterwards that I started kind of like noticing this with a lot of mostly men. And I mean, it's no surprise that, the world is pretty much, it's been run by tech bros for I don't know how many decades at this point. It's run by tech bros. It's run by nerds, geeks, I mean, I mean, they're not, I wouldn't say they're like red pill or black pill, but if not, for their wealth, their extreme money and everything else, I mean, these guys would be inkwells. No doubt about it. They'd be just massive inkwells, like basement dwellers, mom's basement. At maybe like, they might be somewhat successful and then just, end up being known as some creep or some weirdo, chomo, whatever. Not typical stuff. However, I mean, the world's been being run by tech bros for a while, and if you're an inkwell or whatever, I think this is like really just the best best thing for you guys, because let's face it, you're not far right, okay? The far right, they're not based, they're not sigma, they're not, they're pretty much normies. I mean, obviously, with everything, I mean, it's 2026 right now, so with, Trump and Bibi and, Elon Musk having thrown out everything, over the past couple years, it's really thrown the right-wing normies for a loop. And so there's now like just a tiny little handful left. And now I'm not saying, as, that you should be supporting these guys or whatever, but you have to learn to take advantage of opportunities when they come. You have to see the opportunities for what they are. You got to like take off the whole, rose tinted lenses, all this other stuff, because let's face it, like I mean, I've already mentioned this plenty of times. Okay, you guys, most of you guys in this sphere, this red pill sphere, looks maxing sphere, especially if you are as deep into the looks maxing sphere, especially if you're on this channel, like, dude, if you're regular in this kind of sphere, you're a degenerate, okay? You are like no better than these guys. You are degenerate. You manage to figure out to use some kind of technology, to use the system to bypass everything. Like, don't for once try to pretend that you're this like rough, rugged bait. Like, I mean, I don't know if I can call them based, but like this archetype, which is really just, I mean, it's kind of started with the boomers and everything, and with the whole GWAT generation. I mean, if any of you have been in the military, all right, especially if you were, like me, I was Army, U.S. Army 11 Bravo, so I was with, 18X candidates, Ranger candidates, airborne guys, Rangers all the time. And, I mean, these guys are jocks. A lot of people in the military, they're the jocks, they're the normies, they're the preppy kids and all that. Okay, dude, you're not. You're you're not these people, dude. Don't pretend to be these people. And mind you, there's a lot of women in this like black pill, red pill sphere as well. There's a lot of women in the tech right sphere, although they tend to be more in like the biomedical kind of section of it. The biotech section of it, which ultimately, I mean, that's pretty much transhumanism, right? That's looks maxing transhumanism. Same thing with the whole like this whole fluid, technocracy and everything. Like, I mean, of all the people that should be resisting this stuff, you got to learn to ignore the right. Like, stop trying to pander to the far right, the normies, especially the right wing normies. I mean, I'm not saying that you just got to like completely hate them and just spill out all your beliefs, but like, just pretend, put on that nice guy blue pill smile. Just, put on that smile, just kind of nod along, just kind of sort of march along to their beat, just kind of get in step while, like low key being like, okay, fuck this shit, dude. I don't want to be a part of this. These guys are idiots. I mean, yeah, that's kind of like what I did in the army. Although I was Army National Guard, so maybe not as much. Um, any of you guys have been to, like a really jock, fratty, preppy university? I went to Arizona State, and this was like years ago when it was just like, frat, party school, hot chicks, muscle guys, just the whole like party school, frat culture, bro culture. I mean, that was it. That was Arizona State, at the time. I mean, it still kind of is, but it's definitely evolved to the more, like nerdy, tech bro kind of stuff. Which I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I know a lot of you like older millennial types, especially those millennials. You kind of like were part of the blue pill boomer paradigm, especially if you spent much of your life during the GWAT era, because I mean that really kind of is what sort of built up the bro culture. You sort of saw things go from the quiet professional, sort of Aquarians. I mean, I guess like the archetype of the Aquarian, the slipping in and out, all of a sudden trying to be like the virtue signaling bro hero, whatever. I'm trying to find a way to describe the archetypes. You're not any of these guys, okay? Um, like I think it was Emperor Dion. In fact, I know Emperor Dion. He actually mentions about being in the army as 11 Bravo. I mean, he kind of experienced the same thing. He was just kind of at the bottom, pushed around, and you kind of just have to go in there with this like nice guy, fake smile, pretend like just ignorance is bliss kind of stuff. However, like if you are one of these people, you will kind of see some of these other people, and I mean, it's gonna start coming out. That's the thing. If you are, you know, but I mean, I guess they call them the dirt bags. The fuck ups, the soup sandwiches, the I don't know, whatever. The soup sandwich people, which especially if you're in infantry, you are gonna just like it's gonna come out, and these people are gonna see it, and you know you will find like amongst that crowd, like you will kind of figure out who's kind of the normies, the nerds, the jocks. That stuff really begins to come out. Like it starts seeping through, right? I would say me and a few other guys, we kind of gravitated towards each other. We kind of just start, kind of forming this little nucleus, this little coagulation. And it was pretty coming out. All this stuff was just really coming through. I don't mean to sound like you know, I mean it's not racist or anything, but I mean I actually got along with a lot of the black dudes in the military, in the army. I mean, even if I saw them from other branches, like if I saw a black guy in the Air Force or a black guy in the Marine Corps, I'd be like, oh hey, what's up, dude? We were just kind of kicking it, right? Um, cause yeah, Fort Benning, they got the Marines for armor school and all that. And even after getting out, you have to put on that fake smile. Having money will definitely save you because I mean, if you got money, it's called FU money for a reason. You don't got to explain yourself. You don't have to, jump through a lot of hoops just so you can justify, looks maxing or justify your decision making. Because, people, especially when it comes to, sexuality, dating, all that, you see a lot of Hegelian dialectic. It's written all over. No doubt about it. It is just written everywhere. It's unavoidable, you know. If you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, which honestly, you don't even really need that. You kind of just have to have enough experience with this stuff to be like, oh, dang, dude. And it's usually from the beginning that you're putting everything together. I mean, the best way to do it, you have to learn to dissociate, figure something out. I learned to dissociate. In fact, I did so much better when I was dissociating. I was making massive progress. I think that's actually where I was doing better during the lockdowns. In fact, if anything, I noticed that during the lockdowns, it was like the normies, the jock types, especially women, like the, preppy kind of, club women, kind of these like the preppy guys, the jock guys, the party chicks. They were the ones that were really losing their minds during the lockdowns. They were the ones just going absolutely crazy, losing their minds, couldn't handle it. And I think it's because part of it is because a lot of us guys, we were working in sort of this like these essential service industries. I was working in security. I was, running freelance businesses. So, a lot of us were working in tech, working in, programming, data analytics. I was doing physical security. So when I was at the buildings, it was like super calm, super peaceful. And on top of that, I was getting differential. I was getting, I think, like sometimes I'd be getting double time, even if it's not like a holiday. I just be getting double time differentials, which that stuff piled up. Plus, at the time, I was still getting a bunch of like leftover. I still had quite a bit left over from my severance pay when I left the army. I got a medical discharge. But that was really good. I noticed a lot of the guys. I've actually noticed quite a few guys, and I mean, obviously, this is something that most people would be ashamed to say in public, and I get it. But a lot of these, like these based, sort of inkwell, red pill kind of guys. I wouldn't even say guys like Andrew Tate, because you got to realize that in the red pill, the black pill sphere, red pill sphere, it has evolved to sort of pander to the greater, bro culture. But make no mistake, it's not. It's all just pandering. It's all just virtue signaling to the bro culture. It's not actually at that point. But if you see the guys that are like really pandering to this stuff, you know, I mean, we were, because like during the lockdowns, it was the inkwell guys. It was the basement dwellers, the guys that were just online, chronically online. All of a sudden, I mean, me and a lot of these other guys, we're just we're making massive gains. We're sort of like hitting our prime, or at least we're hitting like a second prime. A lot of us guys were just sort of hitting this prime time where we're not just making financial gains. I mean, I've heard a lot of guys say that they had better dating success. Like they were in a better mental space. They were physically in better shape, um, psychologically, emotionally. These guys were in way better shape. And these guys were actually much more successful in their dating life. I've noticed this. And I think part of it because, you know, the world, it's run by, these tech bros, these, the nerds and the jocks. I mean, I've actually heard Lily Gaddis. In fact, Lily Gaddis had this one clip where she's talking about this. She's like, oh yeah, the whole world is being run by these nerds and these geeks, the ones that got shoved in lockers and have a chip on their shoulder. And she's like, yeah, it's time to, shove them back in the lockers and put them in their place. And, that was legit kind of true. It was Benny Johnson and Lily Gaddis, or it was that. And then I think it was, I mean, yeah, during the entire lockdowns, it was a lot of guys who were making gains. There were definitely women making gains as well. Make no mistake. There are definitely women making gains. A lot of these women on OnlyFans and everything, they're doing that as well. Because, I mean, you have to realize that at the end of the day, okay, these, like you guys, you're really not that much different from the tech bro sphere. I mean, I wasn't, I would sort of put myself in these situations so I could virtue signal, so I could somehow justify, looks maxing and hopping on the gear and hopping on the juice and running these cycles and doing all the dieting and everything. I mean, I did that shit on purpose, okay? But, after I just did that, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna start dissociating, just kind of ignore it all. I was able to put on the nice guy smile, the blue pill smile, the whole, mask of blue pill guy, and just, kind of go about pretending while, I'm actively just kind of like hiding all this stuff under the surface. And I told you the mistake that I made was actually starting to adopt the blue pill mindset. I got into a relationship, I fell in love, and I just really started blue pilling myself. I'm like, oh, maybe I could do this as a blue pill guy. I could do this as, as being natural, as, embracing this blue pill paradigm. And I'm going to be this, nice guy, blue pill guy. And I'm genuinely going to embrace this mentality, this mindset. Big, big mistake. Massive mistake. Cost me a lot. It wasn't until later on I'm like, oh my God. And, I spent like years trying to recover from that. Wow, that was a long time that I spent just having to recover from that, dig myself out from that hole that I fell in. Because I mean, it's like when I dig myself out, there's mud caving in. You just gotta, kind of ride it out. And I was eventually, I was like, kind of able to climb out and everything. But I mean, I think that's just how it is these days. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. That was a pitfalls that I made. I mean, you got to be careful when it comes to this kind of stuff. Be super careful. But I mean, me, I mean, I'm obviously I wouldn't. I get why most guys wouldn't want to admit this out loud, and that's why I don't show my face. It's why I don't. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not showing my identity or anything. But yeah, that's about it for now. Catch you soon. Take care.